What's a great return in doubles? It's one that keeps the ball away from the opposite net player and also doesn't allow the server to take over the point with the next ball. So usually a deep cross-court return serves pretty well for that. And at lower levels, that absolutely is true because the net players are not as active yet because they just haven't mastered the volleys quite yet. But what do you do against a team that is very, very active at net? Be it the net player who wants to poach all the time, or actually also the server who might throw in some serve and volley. In this video, I'm going to share 3 returns that I used all the time against teams that were super, super active in doubles. But before we get to that, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, SWINGVISION, because with that app, it is the easiest for you to analyze your game. And watching yourself on film is truly one of the best and quickest way to improve because you see patterns and you also, for instance, get statistics just like you see in the pros. Your percentages of serves, returns made, and forehands, backhands, depth of the court. It's all broken down in numbers that you can analyze and you see exactly what you need to work on. And you also get a really great feature which is called the point history. You literally see the description of how each point ended and you can just scroll through it and you can click on it and then jump to the recording of that exact point. So if you're looking for specific things that you're doing right or wrong, you have them basically in a highlight reel right there. And it really couldn't be any easier to use the SWINGVISION app, especially if you have the swing stick fence mount. All you do is clip your phone right in here, and then you either clip or hang the fence mount right here onto the fence, and then you simply click record, and you can record singles, doubles, points, rallying. You can film your serve practice or even the ball machine, and you got all the stats right at your fingertips. If you want to try SWINGVISION, go ahead, use the link down below, and you also get a free swing stick, which is worth $100 with an annual subscription of the SWINGVISION Pro. And that gives you 30 hours of recording for less than $15 a month, and you also get a 60-day money-back guarantee and free global shipping. Let's get back to the returns. For the first return that I actually used quite a lot, we have to put ourselves into the mind of the server's net partner. When is a good time to poach, actually? A great time to poach is early in the match because people are not used quite yet to you moving at net. They haven't found their groove yet. They want to go for that cross-court return. It's also a great time to poach early in the point of the first or the second ball, because if our baseliners get into these dreaded cross-court rallies, they're getting more and more settled into that point and they just keep the ball away from you. So on the first ball, early in the match, you got great chances to pick the ball off. Now back to the returner's perspective, my perspective. If I know that I'm facing a very active team that knows that they should poach very early in the match and very early in the point, I'm gonna do basically the I know that you know that I know thing. I'm gonna flame the ball up the line very early in the point and very early in the match, maybe even on my very first return. Basically, I want to tell that net player here who is looking to poach immediately that I have that down the line ball. I want to prevent that they can just mindlessly cross and just move and get into their poaching rhythm. Now in recreational doubles, a lot of players are over covering their alley, their line anyways. They're not that comfortable with poaching maybe anyways because they claim that they're getting passed down the line. So by me actually going down the line, I'm reinforcing their need to covering that line. So if I do that early in the match, early in the point, they're now going like, see, I now have to cover the line, which for me effectively leaves the middle wide open for much easier returns. The aim for my down the line ball is not on the line, it's not deep, it's actually somewhere around here lower. Because if this net player gets it, that's okay. They can absolutely get it. It's really more a mental thing for me when I go down the line here, because either the aggressive net player knows that I can now go down the line, or the person that overcloses anyways, they're gonna inch over here even more to protect the alley. Neither of them can do anything with the ball from down here. So with that down the line return, I'm not going for a winner. I'm just trying to establish something in their mind. Second return that I used a whole lot against very active net players, poachers, was the bump lob approach shot. I know that sounds very complicated. It really isn't. It is a little bit more of an advanced option though, because that bump lob is not necessarily the easiest to execute. But when somebody wants to poach, a lot of times they're very, very, very close to the net. So lobbing them, no matter where, is usually a pretty great idea. You could leave it at that, just bumping the ball up, just lobbing them, and then starting the point that way. But if you want to make it really aggressive, you actually use that bump lob as an approach shot. You can start to move in, coming in after that bump lob, when you see the opposite net player that you're lobbing cannot set up for a very aggressive overhead. If they can't tee off on you, that's obviously a better chance for you to then make the next ball. And you're definitely coming in after that bump lob when the net player abandons the overhead and starts to switch. That's when you're moving in. So my opposite net player cannot set up for a very powerful overhead, or I clearly lob them right out. I'm coming forward. However, I'm not going to rush in until my belly button is at net, because the baseline player that's retrieving that lob will very likely hit a lob back. So I'm coming in to somewhere around the service line. If it's now a bad lob that they're throwing up, or any kind of passive shot, I can move forward either for a higher volley or for an overhead. And if they so happen to play a great defensive lob, I got everything covered right here. The last return that I still had to use quite a lot is a lower dip ball into the feet of a serve and volleyer. At lower level, you basically never see serve and volleying, but at higher recreational levels, players are throwing serve and volley in as a measure basically to interrupt the returner's rhythm, and for good reason so. If I'm in my rhythm back there just returning deep cross court, that will give the server a volley at very reasonable height. If somebody comes in for serve and volley, they're most likely hitting their first volley around the service line. So if I'm aiming at the service line for the ball to come down here, I'm forcing them for a very, very uncomfortable volley. They have to lift it up, which if they manage to go back cross court and actually keep the ball away from my net partner, it's going to be a slower ball. I have more time to get up to that ball, and hopefully I have a better target. But if my partner sees the opposite serve and volleyer with the racket head below the net line, popping the ball up, I'm hoping really that my net player sees that and can intercept that ball, put it away. None of these returns are trying to be immediate winners. They're just setting up expectations, if you will. The down the line can freeze your opponent and or encourage that over covering. The bump lob is an approach for me. The dipper ball down to the feet of an incoming serve and volleyer gives me a better option on the second ball, or my partner can actually poach. Let me know down in the comments which one of these returns you like the best, and or which one of those you have used successfully.